Hello, everybody. I'm Jack, and you're watching Jack's Bike Stuff. Today, we'll be comparing a 128-year-old road bicycle to a modern XC race bike. Let's start things off with a little bit of a background. This bike was built by the Day Manufacturing Company out of Lakeview, New York in 1897. It survived both world wars, it survived both steel drives for both those wars, and it is in great running shape. Somebody offered this to me, and I could not let it down. So I purchased it, and I took it upon myself as a 15-year-old to completely rebuild everything on it, including the original part, which I believe this rear hub is original to this bike. It does not have any sort of branding on it. It has a very funky design for the braking, because this is a brake hub. This bike has no brakes except for that. So, this rear hub has clutches in it. Yes, this is a clutch-driven rear hub, which is very odd for a hub brake, as you may know, if you've ever taken a new one apart, or even one that's been made since the 1960s. It has two brake pads that go out against the drum, and that's what slows down the bike. Similar, extremely similar, to a drum brake on a car, if you've ever worked on those. This bike has ball bearing hubs. This bike has a ball bearing headset. This bike has ball bearing bottom bracket. This is all ball bearings, because that's all they had in 1897. But I took it upon myself to rebuild everything. So I took everything apart, took the headset apart, I took the hubs apart, I took the bottom bracket apart, I took the rear brake apart, and that's how I found out it was a clutch system brake, which is very odd. I replaced the tires and the tubes, because when I got this bike, the rear tire disintegrated in my hand. The front actually held air though. And I put a modern saddle on it, or modern, just for the aesthetic look. That's why it is a leather color. But this is the original saddle that came on this bike. It is a Brooks saddle. I believe it was made around the same time period as this bike. It is original leather. You can see how it's built. It's built extremely similar to the new ones. It's also made in England. It's a little hard to see there. And it is actually in extremely good shape for how old I'm assuming it is. It has the copper buttons. They have been worn down a little bit, so this has been ridden with that saddle quite a bit. But overall, for a bike that's older than most modern things, it rides great. I have ridden it recently, and it is whisper quiet. The rear brake works fantastic. Overall, it is a great bike. And something I learned is that if you bring this into a bike shop, they will ask you how to work on it. Usually you bring a bike into the bike shop and they can tell you how to work on it. They will repair it for you. They will tell you how it works. But I had to tell the bike shops how this bike worked, because I took it apart and they didn't. All right, now let's get to the fun stuff. This bike and that XC bike have many things that are really, really different about them. But they also have some things that are similar. So I'll go over both. Let's start off with this bike's quirks, differences compared to the XC bike. This bike has a single speed setup. This bike has a hub brake. This bike has 27 by 1.25 tires. This bike has a polished steel frame. This bike has ball bearings everywhere you could have them. This bike has an oiled, not greased, an oiled bottom bracket. This bike has a skip tooth chain. This bike is 128 years old. So now it is time to ride the day bike. So I'm going to go strap up and we're going to see how this
Here I
little
am riding
beauty
the
rides.
day bike, and it rode very nice. The wind was too strong for the audio, so I have to voice over. But yes, the bike rode very smooth. It was quiet. The geometry felt very outdated, as you may expect. The bike overall is too small for me, though.
Now we are on to the XC bike. I have here my 2024 Pivot Mach 4 SL. This bike has many things that old day bike does not. Probably the biggest thing, though, will be the Shimano DRX-T 1x12 drivetrain. They didn't have that kind of technology back in the day. Second thing, hydraulic disc brakes, front and rear. This bike has a dropper post, seat post, meaning it goes up and down by a flick of a switch on the handlebars. This bike has a 1-up EDC in the headset, meaning I could just pull a tool out of my bike. Couldn't do that in the past. This bike has tubeless tires, and they are 29 inches, not 27. This bike has a carbon fiber frame that has been clear coated with some paint on it, but in the right light, you are able to see the carbon fiber lay under the paint, which I think is super cool. This bike has air suspension. This bike has through axles, front and rear. This bike has supple tires that are good off-road. That old day bike has good tires for the road. This bike can be bought in a bike shop today. That old day bike, well, you could buy it in 1904. That was the year the company went out of business. But there are so many different things. This bike has a tapered head tube. This bike has a tapered fork. This bike has a dual link kind of suspension here, which is really, really out there, assuming this bike was also 128 years old. But it's only 2 or 1. This bike has so many different things. The geometry is different. This bike is so very different compared to that day bike. And if you were to show this to, leave a comment down below. What do you think a guy from 1897 would say about this bike today if he saw this? If he was a bike builder back in the day and he saw this, what do you think he would say? Type that down in the comments. Also, hit the like button and even subscribe if you like this kind of content, because I have a whole bunch of random bike stuff that I feel like a lot of you would like to see. Hit that like and subscribe button for me and leave your comments down below. Now it's time to ride the Mach 4 SL as well. So I'm going to go restrap up and ride this, and I'll give you my opinions on
I am
this
very
bike
used
as
to this
well.
bike at this point. This is one of my main bikes, so it felt normal. It is an XL frame. It was much smoother than the day bike, meaning the ride was just more comfortable, and the full suspension really helps there. The suspension in general really helps. The disc brakes had much more power than the hub brake, and it felt much more modern, but I still find myself liking the day bike just for the old feel.
That was the comparison between the Pivot Mach 4 SL, which is a 2024 XC mountain bike race bike, and a 1897 day manufacturing road bike. Yes, one is a mountain bike, one is a road bike. Big difference. I understand that. So if you're leaving a comment right now saying, hey Jack, one's a road bike and one's a mountain bike. Yeah, I know. They do not compare. but they only had road bikes in 1897. Now they have all kinds of different bikes, but I am interested in mountain biking, so that's why I have a Pivot Mach 4SL. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said earlier, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment. Do those things. That really helps me out. And if you like to see this kind of content between weird bikes and bikes that you just don't really get to see all that often, I have another one that's really cool. So leave a comment if you want to see that. But that is it. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day.